Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Thumbs Up Charter Services Behind the Scenes, part 2 of Trouble with Transoms. Well, we've been a little busy here today. We're going to get into our second segment here of actually tearing the transom out, taking the cap off the top of the transom, this metal cap. And we've had to do a little prep work. There's some things we've had to remove, and we'll show you that real quick. But we just want to give you a quick overview of what we've done so far, and then we'll dig right into it. So here we go. As you can see, we've been pretty busy here. We've got the old bilge pump out. We've cut some of the flooring back. We've got some of the junk out of the top of the transom cap that we didn't want, like these rod holders sitting down there. Somewhere down there, there's a bilge pump that has seen way better days. And then we got another can here full of stuff. But let's take you up and just let you embrace the horror of what has been going on with this transom behind all that wood that the guy put in. He thought he was fixing this thing. We'll hop up in here and we'll turn around and take a gander at this. I mean, my goodness, that is all rot right back to the aluminum. Going to be pretty easy to remove. I just kind of knock it loose and suck it up with a vacuum. But it was really, really bad. There was no structure left here. The best part was over in here. As you can see, we cut this floor back on either side so we can get in here and work on it and remove all those through bolts through the back of the transom. And that's what we're going to do next, is get those out after we vacuum this mess up. Got a lot of carpenter ants in here. I can't figure out why. So folks, that's the way to remove a transom. Use a vacuum cleaner. Actually, that's pretty bad. But we got a lot of the debris out of the way. And just want to send a thank you out to the folks at Home Depot for the Rigid for making this awesome vacuum with like this 3-inch hose that my lovely wife Karen right here, say hi, picked me up for a present because she knew that the little vacuum that we had couldn't handle anything. It always clog up, and man, this thing swallows everything, as you saw. So yeah, we've effectively removed about a third of the transom, maybe almost half, with a vacuum cleaner. And the next steps we're going to have to do is get this transom cap off. So time to get the bolts out, time to drill what rivets are left, and pop this cap off so we can get to the root of the problem. All right, so we haven't removed the cap yet like we said we were going to do, because we started clawing with our hands at the transom wood, and guess what? It all came out. It was that bad. Even the stuff over here that looked like it was halfway decent, it just fell right apart. Like a paper tiger here. Pretty scary. But anyway, as you can see, we've got all the bolts out that go through bolts, and channels look good. They're all clean. We vacuumed all this out. We just got to pop this cap off here, and we'll be ready to put a transom in it. One area of corrosion we did find when we pulled this wood down was right in here. It's a little rough there. We got to grind that. It's not through by any means, but we got to grind that and then fill that with some Marine Tech Smooth to this surface before we put that transom back in to repair that. Not bad though for a 50-year-old boat. So here's our transom in the raw form. Bunch of 4x8 sheets of marine grade plywood. And we got one piece of floor underlayment here that's a 1/4 inch thick. We're going to use that to template, make a full-size template of the transom before we cut these two pieces, which are 1/2 inch, which were $104 a piece, and then the 3/4 inch piece, which was $128. So you can see my wanting to make a full-size template. Spend the extra 16 bucks before you destroy $400 in wood, right? A lot of people ask what's the difference about marine plywood compared to plywood you use in your house. As you can see down here, those were probably cracks or knots. They've been removed. They've had filler put in it. And then the glue itself, so there's no cracks, no knots in marine plywood. And then the other thing is the glue. The glue is water resistant, unlike glue that you would find in home construction type plywood. Another thing people are probably going to ask is, why aren't you using, preserved plywood, treated plywood? That's because typically treated plywood will attack aluminum. There are products out there now. They've been out maybe, I don't know, a half dozen years. One of them comes to mind is called AC2, which is Apple Charlie numeral 2, sold by Menards. You can find it on their website. You can do your research on it. That is what they claim, or what they state, is a direct contact to aluminum plywood that will not corrode or attack it. I think Lowe's has a brand too, but I think the verdict is just, there's not enough information about it. So we're going to do it the traditional way with marine plywood. And the second thing is, this plywood, you cannot, treated plywood, you can't fiberglass resin treated plywood. It won't adhere correctly because it's wet, because it's got other materials in it. So there's the second reason. So what we're going to do is use this 1/4 inch piece of floor underlayment to cut us a full-size template that we will verify sliding in and out of that boat transom before we cut any of this wood. Once we cut this wood to the shape of the transom, it's going to be 1 3/4 inches, obviously, a half, and 3/4. We're going to treat it with something. Maybe you've never heard of it. It's used a lot out in western states. It's made by Smith Company, and it's called CEPS. Let me see here, CEPS, Clear Epoxy Penetrating Sealant. I think Total Boat makes a similar product, but I like to use the Smith & Company version of it. And what that does is, it's a 2-part epoxy that's very thin, that once we cut this transom wood, we treat it with a roller, and it sucks into all the fibers, and it'll lock the water out. So in essence, in a way, it's kind of like treated plywood, kind of. But the stuff is really good. And if we do that to it, and we do it right before we assemble this, this transom will outlive me. All right, it's time to start removing the transom cap. Using a Sawzall, carefully cut the weld here. Using a die grinder, grind the heads of your rivets off here and here. Then use a drift punch to knock them out. we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We'll show you the drift punching the rivets first here. Find the center of the rivet, give it a punch. See it break. Boom. It's out. Come down this other side with the Sawzall, cut it too. Your next maneuver, pull this rub rail out. Like I showed you, gently pry screwdriver at the end of this. Pull this out, exposing at least 2 or 3 screws here that hold this aluminum rail strip on to the gunnel so you can pull it out. Okay, because I'm going to show you over here on a ladder what's behind it on this cap. And what's on behind it is you've got yourself 4 rivets. There'll be 4 on either side, over on that side too. Grind those off flush and hit them out with a punch. Alright, so now what we have on each side, 2 rivets, one there, one there. This is on the underside. 1 rivet like right here. If you can see that. We got to release those 3 rivets on each side. And once we do so, this is on the underside, see, of the corner of the transom cap. Each side we release those 3 rivets. We should be pretty well free with the exception of the cleats on the back we got to pull out. Alright, we've knocked out the 4, ground flush the 4 rivets that were here on each side, then knocked them out with a punch. So our next move is to go back underneath where I showed you just a minute ago. Each side remove these 3 rivets on the underside, same way. Then we'll get to the cleats. And then the last step, the weld goes down this way. We're going to have to probably take a die grinder and cut this edge up to here to clear it, and then this whole transom cap should lift off. Alright, so after we took out 3 rivets on this side, 3 on that side, we took out our cleats on either side, cap came right off. Okay? See? So I'm going to put you down for a second. I'm going to take this cap and put it out to the side. Then we're going to look down the back of the transom with it removed. And you get a better idea of how this thing was constructed, how we'll have to take it back together. With the welds once we get done with the transom replacement. So what you can see with the cap of the transom removed is this is where our cleat was, this is where our 2 rivets was. Your 4 rivets were down here underneath the railing. You have a gunnel comes in the side, and then the extension as part of that gunnel that actually screws in to the wood in the transom if it were here. The interesting thing was is we took all that wood out without removing those screws, and it's obvious you had to put those screws in with the transom cap off. But the fact is that the wood was so rotted it just fell out, so our screws fell out with it. Same thing on this side. This extension's a little bit bent. We got to put it back. There was a screw in there. Obviously, when we pulled on that wood, it was a little bit better and it bent this, but we'll get that back in place. But same thing here. This is where the cleat was. You have your 4 rivets underneath the bumper aluminum guard cap there along the gunnel or the gunnel cap. And then this whole thing just lifted off. But you see it fits into the track, the wood fits into the track on either side. So what's going to happen is we are going to have to do something with this. I'm not quite sure yet what. We're going to investigate that because I really don't want to bend this. See if I can figure out a way, but we might have to cut this put the wood in and then come back and take it back together. Something, but I want that structure back there. It's there for a reason. So, but complete success. So far, a lot easier than working with a fiberglass transom. Really like it. This only took just a couple days to get apart. And time to move forward. All right, well, hey, we got that transom cap off, got the thing in really good shape in a position where we can start working on part 3 of our series of troubles with transoms. And that would be to start making our template out of the 1/4 inch piece of Huron we've got. Make sure that we've got the transom traced correctly to cut our pieces to put the transom together. So that in itself will be an interesting series because we're going to be using a bunch of different products, cutting wood, all kinds of good stuff, paint brushes, paint, stuff like that. So hope you enjoyed this episode. Visit us at thumbsupcharter.com or visit us on Google at Thumbs Up Charter Services in Sebring or Bayport, Michigan. Or visit us on Facebook at Thumbs Up Charter Services and follow us. We'd love to have you. So until next time, folks, whether it be another episode on the old Ambrose here or maybe a Saginaw Bay Walleye Fishing Report, this is Captain Karl Burnside wishing you tight lines and great times on the Great Lakes. Remember, at Thumbs Up Charter Services, we are wild for walleye. We will see you again soon.